Holy mackerel, is it time to do another one of these things? Hey everyone, here's what else I saw in January that I didn't already tell you about. I've got lots to cover today, so no dilly-dallying. Movie number one is 1943's The Human Comedy, a touching drama about life on the home front during the war. It focuses on Homer McCauley, played by Mickey Rooney, the teenaged middle son of a widowed mother of four who goes to work at the telegraph office to support his family while his elder brother, Van Johnson, is away at war. Rather than one through-line plot, this is more a series of vignettes, snapshots of life in Ithaca, California. There are coming-of-age moments, life lessons imparted by wise older characters like Homer's mother, his teacher, the librarian, and sidebars with distantly related characters. It has light comic anecdotes, but also several scenes that will tug at your heart and your tear ducts. The ending isn't unpredictable, but that doesn't make it any easier when it comes, and the positive spin they put on it wasn't altogether as easy to accept as seemed intended. The film features good performances all around. Faye Bainter and Frank Morgan play key roles, along with Marsha Hunt, James Craig, Donna Reed, and Ray Collins. There are also some recognizable child actors, Butch Jenkins as Homer's little brother, Carl Alfalfa Switzer as the neighborhood gang leader, and Daryl Hickman as a bullied kid who can't read. Oh, and this is one of several movies where we've caught a pre-fame Robert Mitchum playing a soldier. Above all is Rooney's especially good performance. Rooney, who's about 23 here in reality, seems to age 50 years over the course of the film. It's a wholesome picture of a regular American family doing its best to make it through trying times. It's heavy on patriotism and emotion with a strong emphasis on traditional values. Though it's not an epic, it might make an interesting companion to Since You Went Away, one of my own favorite American homefront war dramas, which came out the following year. Movie number two is one that's been recommended to me a few times, The Night Stalker. Dan Curtis's very successful TV movie production from 1972, the first of two precursors to a series starring Darren McGavin as Carl Kolchak, a seasoned reporter who tenaciously pursues the case of a serial killer on the Vegas Strip whose victims suffer massive blood loss. He is determined to pick up the trail of this apparent madman who thinks he's a vampire, even though the DA, the chief of police, his boss, and pretty much anyone else who has a say tells him to leave the story alone. McGavin's unlikely Van Helsing is a likable character, a reporter turned detective with a dry sense of humor. The screenplay was written by Richard Matheson and deftly gives its would-be supernatural subject matter a gritty and grounded realistic treatment, something I don't think had quite been done before. The interesting supporting cast includes Carol Lynley as Kolchak's much younger girlfriend, with Kent Smith, Charles McGraw, Simon Oakland, Claude Akins, and several other familiar faces, and Barry Atwater as the creepy antagonist. I thought it was alright. I'll check out the second film, The Night Strangler, and then we'll see if I want to go on with the TV show. It's only 20 episodes, and it's considered a strong influence on The X-Files. Since there were a couple instances when I felt this 74-minute film dragged a bit, maybe I'd like the shorter episode format better. Movie number three, There's Something in My Eye. Movie number three I had seen before, 1942's Larceny, Inc., one of Edward G. Robinson's crime comedies. This time he plays a con on parole with a plan to make some dough who ends up buying a failing leather goods and luggage store located next to a bank so he and his two cronies can dig through the basement to the vault next door. All this because the bank refused to give him a loan for the racetrack he wants to open. I love it when Robinson gets a chance to show his comedic talents, and he's joined by a solid supporting cast. Broderick Crawford and Edward Brophy shine as Robinson's oafish buddies, plus there's Jane Wyman as his adopted daughter who suspects something's up, Jack Carson as an overeager luggage salesman, Anthony Quinn as the heavy, and a number of other recognizable character actors. The first half of the film is funnier than the second, I would say. The plot gets a little tired out, but it's got plenty of good stuff, including a scene in which Robinson dresses up as Santa Claus, which might just be worth the price of admission, but the scene in which he flippantly gift wraps a suitcase is the funniest one in my book. Movie number four is 1956's The Swan, Grace Kelly's second-to-last film before becoming the Princess of Monaco. Here she plays fictional Princess Alexandra, pressured by her family to get a visiting crown prince, Alec Guinness, to propose to her. But the wayward prince, though polite, is carefully avoiding her, while she's struggling to understand her repressed feelings for her younger brother's tutor, Louis Jourdan. This was a partial rewatch for me. I'd seen about half the film, probably 10 years ago now, and always meant to finish it. I enjoy the humor and awkwardness of the situation, and I really like the performances from the supporting cast. Jessie Royce Landis, who played Kelly's mother the year before in To Catch a Thief as the nervous mother eager to make the match, Brian Aherne as the uncle-turned-priest, offering wisdom and counsel and a sympathetic ear, Estelle Winwood as Aunt Symphorosa, what a name! Leo G. Carroll as the head of the staff, and Agnes Moorehead as the queen. But at a point, it changes from a straight-up comedy to more of a drama, and kind of an angsty one, and that's where it starts to lose me. Much is made of Kelly's royal appearance here, and certainly she looks beautiful, wearing costumes by Helen Rose, who would design her wedding dress. But I find the character to be a challenging one to like. That's intentional, of course. She's supposed to be an ice maiden, rigidly and unemotionally doing her duty, but even when she starts to feel, I don't warm up to her that much. I also end up not really minding who she ends up with. Alec Guinness and Louis Jourdain's characters are both attractive and charming in their separate ways, and deep down both seem like good men. I just don't buy that Alexandra's the right fit for either one, so either way the cookie crumbles, it's gonna leave me with a sense of dissatisfaction. Movie number 5 is a tense pre-war drama from 1940 titled Escape, in which Robert Taylor stars as an American who goes to Nazi Germany looking for his mother, a famous stage actress, unaware she's being held in a concentration camp and is about to be executed for treason. For his efforts, Taylor gets nothing but frustration and warnings to go back home until he has a chance encounter with Norma Shearer's character, a widowed countess in a unique position to help him, being the mistress of Conrad Veidt's high-ranking German official. Solid performances all around here, from the leads as well as the supporting cast, which includes Philip Dorn as a sympathetic German doctor, Felix Bressert as an anxious family friend, stage and silent screen star Natsamova as Robert Taylor's mother, and Bonita Granville as a sycophant and goose-stepping she-wolf in the making. I liked the film just fine, though there was something they did near the end, the real-life implications of which bothered me, but I had to tell myself not to think too much about it because it's just a movie. Movie number 6 is 1966's The Fortune Cookie, a comedy written and directed by Billy Wilder that stars Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau, the first of many films they made together. Lemmon plays a news cameraman who gets knocked over on the sidelines by a football player mid-game. Matthau is his brother-in-law and a shyster lawyer who snatches the opportunity for a big lawsuit, even though Lemmon is fine. Lemmon protests all the way, but agrees to play along with the hope that his ex-wife will come back to him. I'd say this is actually more dramedy than comedy. There are plenty of funny antics, but Lemmon brings a lot of heart and sincerity and bittersweetness to the film, while it's Matthau who brings the more outrageous laughs. Matthau, who suffered a heart attack partway through filming and lost a lot of weight, went on to win the supporting actor Oscar. Also noteworthy is the subplot with football player Boom Boom Jackson, played by Ron Rich, who feels so sorry about what happened to Lemmon that he spends all his time waiting on him to try to make it up, to the point that they become good friends. There are a lot of interesting turns here. Some of them you can see coming from miles away, and that's part of the humor, but some of them are completely unexpected, and it's a good film, uniquely constructed. The only thing I'd say is that it's maybe a touch too long and drawn out for a comedy. Movie number 7 is Room for One More from 1952. Cary Grant and his then-wife Betsy Drake star as a married couple already busy with 3 kids and a house full of stray animals when soft-hearted, generous Drake visits an orphanage and agrees to open their home to a foster child to Grant's dismay. The film follows the ups and downs as first one and then another foster child struggle to find their places in the family. Meanwhile, a running subplot is Grant's increasing frustration that his wife, so occupied with the children, isn't giving her husband any personal attention. It's a sentimental story, but a heartwarming one that held personal significance on a few levels for Grant, who had a difficult childhood himself and also longed for kids of his own. This and Penny Serenade, which I talked about in last month's What Else I Saw video, were his favorite films that he worked on. It is a comedy for the whole family, but not exactly laugh-out-loud funny, given the subject matter of these kids' past experiences. Movie number 8 is another rewatch, 1960's Midnight Lace. I had seen this one a bunch of times, as it's an old favorite of my mom's, but it had been quite a while. Doris Day stars as the new wife of Rex Harrison's important businessman. She's happily acclimating herself to life in London at their swanky apartment, but everything turns upside down when a creepy voice in the foggy park addresses her by name, Mrs. Preston, and says he's going to kill her. She rushes home to tell her husband, and he does what he can to help, but the harassment and unexplainable threats don't stop, and it gets worse when people start to think she's making it all up just to get attention. The film co-stars John Williams as the Scotland Yard inspector, John Gavin as a nice guy with a knack for coming to her rescue, Myrna Loy as her breezy, fun-loving aunt, a tired-looking Herbert Marshall as Harrison's colleague, and Roddy McDowell as a toadying social climber. While Doris Day is known most for her romantic comedies, she did a run of thrillers like this playing tormented heroines, this the third after Julie and The Man Who Knew Too Much. It's startling to learn that she had difficulty filming certain scenes because the tortuous predicament the character was placed in reminded her of abuse she'd suffered in her previous 2 marriages. And it's disturbing that her husband at the time, producer Martin Melcher, pushed her to do these films that were so trying for her. She gives a fine performance, though, and she does get to have a little fun, too. The character goes through a lot of costume changes, and some of these outfits are pretty unique. If you like Hitchcock movies, you'd probably enjoy this one. It's often hailed as one of those not Hitchcock but could have been Hitchcock suspense films. Movie number 9 is one that was recommended to me recently, a Czech film from 1973. I'm probably going to say this wrong, forgive me. Tři úryvky pro Popelku, or 3 Wishes for Cinderella, or it's sometimes known as 3 Gifts for Cinderella. I had never heard of this take on the fairy tale, but it's enjoyed a lot of popularity in Europe over the years and become a Christmas favorite. It's a charming film with some fresh interpretations of the old story. For example, Cinderella meets the prince twice before the ball, but the first time he thinks she is a little girl, and the second time she's disguised herself as an expert marksman and wins his admiration. At the ball, she veils herself so that he won't recognize her. And instead of a fairy godmother, there's a beautiful and somewhat magical owl who helps provide Cinderella with what she needs. There is a restored version of this with subtitles on YouTube. Subtitles you have to turn on by turning on closed captioning. I didn't know that at first. The restoration looks great, the color is lovely, and this Cinderella, played by Lubusa Safrankova, is very appealing and winsome, and she's got some sass. I didn't love the prince, but he's got room to grow, and I very much enjoyed his parents, while Cinderella's stepmother had some hilarious hats. For movie number 10, we move over to France for our first Alain Delon movie of the year, 1964's La Tulipe Noire, or The Black Tulip. It's actually a French-Spanish-Italian co-production with an international cast, which takes its title and some names from a work by Alexandre Dumas, but not its story, which is set in the early part of the French Revolution, before things went crazy and they started chopping people's heads off. It's about a Robin Hood or Zorro-like figure known as the Black Tulip, an aristocrat by day and masked bandit by night who steals from the rich to the delight of the poor. But when a tangle with the head of the police marks his face, he goes into hiding and sends for his younger brother to masquerade as him in public until his scar is healed. What's more thrilling than having Alain Delon in a movie? Having Alain Delon play 2 characters in a movie. The 2 brothers, Guillaume and Julien, are very different. Guillaume is a rakish daredevil and expert swordsman who doesn't care much about revolutionary ideology. Julien is timid and sweet-tempered and not the best with a sword and full of ideals. He admirably steps up to the challenge of filling his brother's shoes, but he lacks his polish and swagger and his way with the horses and the ladies. He comes around, though, especially with the help of a feisty young lower-class woman, daughter of a revolutionary, played by Verna Lisi. This was a different take on the revolution than those I'm used to, basically the opposite of The Scarlet Pimpernel, but it's a fun and engaging swashbuckler. It's a bit silly at times and has some risque humor, and also the subtitles on the DVD, which I got for Christmas by request, don't always line up right, so you have to work harder to figure out which line goes with which character, which is even trickier when they're played by the same person. Alain Delon was great, by the way, and not just to look at. By the way, he did also play Zorro in 1975 at his son's request. If you'd like to hear my thoughts on that film, check out What Else I Saw in February 2020. That was almost a year ago. Movie number 11 is 1966's Ambush Bay, a World War II film about a group of 9 Marines dropped into the Philippines to make contact with someone who has key intel about a planned ambush on General MacArthur. Top billed are Hugh O'Brien and Mickey Rooney, him again, but the focus is really on James Mitchum, the spittin' image of his dad, it's uncanny, who plays a radio operator and last-minute replacement with zero experience. He's not well received by the other men, who are tired, cynical professionals, while he asks too many questions and lacks discipline. Since one thing I enjoy most about combat films is the camaraderie that builds between men from different backgrounds sharing a common experience on the battlefield, the absolute dearth of camaraderie here was a bit of a downer. Ib Melchior wrote this, a departure from his science fiction scripts. It is bleak, especially the second half after they reach their contact, who turns out to be a woman. This is the mid-60s, though, so war films were starting to get a more brutally honest treatment than they had in the 40s and 50s. It's a tense film with a couple difficult sequences, forcing Mitchum's character to learn some valuable lessons the hard way. Movie number 12 is 2017's Unlocked, a thriller that I would describe as one season of 24 condensed into 98 minutes, with Noomi Rapace, is that how you say her name?
Noomi Rapace.
As a female Jack Bauer. She plays an inactive CIA field agent who's haunted by her failure to break a suspect in time to save lives in a Paris terrorist attack. She's reactivated, against her will, when an alleged courier is apprehended, believed to be carrying a message that will set off another attack, but there's something fishy going on. I knew nothing about this going into it, which definitely worked in the movie's favor. I just took a gander at Rotten Tomatoes, where it seems the fan critics hated this movie, but general audiences didn't think it was so bad, and I noticed one negative reviewer complained that the twist had been spoiled by the trailer, which is exactly why you don't watch trailers for movies like this. It's always best to go in as uninformed as possible, and that's what my family did, which is probably why we felt this was a not great, but fairly decent film. There are a lot of twists and turns, no one can be trusted, and when one bad guy is revealed, you can bet there's another bad guy behind him pulling the strings. The situation changes quickly enough to keep you from guessing everything that will happen, and while the star doesn't exhibit a lot of personality, she's not really supposed to be super emotional. The supporting cast includes Michael Douglas, John Malkovich, Toni Collette, and Orlando Bloom, who I hadn't seen in a movie in a while. I had low expectations for an overdone, run-of-the-mill flick, and maybe some people will say, yeah, that's what it is, but it was actually more engaging than I thought it would be. Surprisingly, okay. Movie number 13 is a western from 1968, Hang 'em High. It's an American film, but it feels just like a spaghetti western, and no wonder. Though Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy hadn't yet come out in the United States, its star Clint Eastwood, who starred in and produced this film, sought to imitate its style. Eastwood plays a former lawman turned rancher who gets accused of cattle rustling and murder by a vengeful band that hangs him in the name of vigilante justice. Amazingly, he survives the hanging and ends up putting on the marshal's badge, his goal being to bring in the men who would have murdered him. The cast includes some familiar faces who were especially prevalent on television at the time: Ed Begley, Bruce Dern, Pat Hingle. Hingles is an interesting character, the only judge in pre-statehood Oklahoma, and he's known to execute most men to come before the bench. It's tough to say if he's truly a fair and just man, or if he gets too much satisfaction out of purging the territory of these criminals. Inger Stevens co-stars as a woman who grimly checks the faces of each prisoner brought in, looking for someone specific, and disappointed when she doesn't find him. There are a couple rough sequences here, the opening lynching scene in particular, but if you can get past that, you'll probably be okay, and Eastwood is cool as a cucumber through it all. Movie number 14 is It Started With Eve, a light romantic comedy from 1941 in which Robert Cummings plays a tycoon's son who brings his new fiancée home to meet his eccentric father, Charles Laughton, on his deathbed. But when she's not there at the right time, he panics and hires the hat check girl, Deanna Durbin, to fill in, thinking his father's going to die any minute and it won't make any difference. But then his father recovers and takes a strong liking to the fake fiancé, to his son's consternation. As for Durbin, she would back out discreetly, but she's been trying to launch her music career for years and gotten nowhere, and these people have connections, so she wants to hang on for a few more days. Charles Laughton is a hoot here as the overbearing but rascally and lovable father. He's supposed to have lost weight in his illness, so he spends the second half of the film in comically large clothes, and a highlight is a scene near the end where he dances the conga with Durbin. For her part, Durbin gets to sing a few operatic pieces, accompanying herself on the piano. It's a funny film with energetic, engaging performances from the three leads. The only thing that didn't quite work for me was the resolution. You know the two leads are going to end up together in spite of all their fighting, but when it eventually happened, I just couldn't buy it. The movie didn't take that final, satisfying step. There's no moment of true connection, no second where either one gets that, hey, I have feelings for this person, glimmer in their eyes. So there was that. But otherwise, I had a good time with it. And movie number 15 is 1946's The Blue Dahlia, one of three noirs that paired Alan Ladd and Veronica Lake. Ladd plays a naval officer who returns from the war to find his wife hosting a crazy party and kissing another man. He makes it no secret that he's angry and leaves her, but when she's discovered murdered the next morning, suspicion falls on him and he becomes a wanted man. Veronica Lake plays the young woman who offers him a ride as he's leaving his wife, unaware of how their stories will turn out to be connected. This movie, by the way, is not directly related to the infamous Black Dahlia murder case. Elizabeth Short's body was found in 1947, a year after this came out. However, according to theory, the nickname may have been chosen by reporters who were inspired by this film's popularity at the time, coupled with Short's preference for wearing black clothing and flowers in her hair. Anyway, the supporting cast includes William Bendix as Ladd's troubled war buddy, Doris Dowling as the unfaithful wife, and Howard Da Silva as her lover. The screenplay was written by Raymond Chandler, and you can tell, it doesn't feature a hard-boiled PI, but there are echoes of the structure of his Philip Marlowe detective novels, especially the way the plot keeps getting more complicated, and it's gradually revealed that every suspect is up to no good, but which one is guilty of this particular crime? It keeps you wondering until the end. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this discussion of what else I saw in January. The films, as usual, are listed in the description, and if you've seen any of these films, I'd love to know what you think of them, so go ahead and leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.